My name is Elizabeth Curry. I'm the Assistant Superintendent for Instruction in Gloucester City School District. We're a small school district in southern New Jersey with about 2,200 students. Classworks was a valuable tool for us to use during remote learning because it worked well with all of our other programs. For example, taking our benchmark, which we took in January or February, providing Classwork with the data, and that gave every child an individualized learning plan. And it gave the teacher the information. And the fact that teachers could divide their classes and say, all right, this 15 minutes while you're home, you're going to sign in and do your Classworks assignment, and I'm going to give direct instruction to this small group. And then we're going to rotate, having many small groups, sort of the daily 5 structure, and that's a structure where you take your class and you break it down into mini groups so that everybody gets from the teacher what they need from the teacher. So we were able to use that tool for that. Classworks we've tried several other companies. The best company to work with our benchmarking company. It's a smooth transition. It wasn't a lot of work for my office to do other than say, push this button and get this ready, and this gets uploaded there. And it was easy for teachers to use. If something is cumbersome or teachers have to work or students have trouble accessing or using something, they don't do it. Classworks makes it easier to differentiate. Differentiate mean I'm instructing a math lesson and a particular content, but the skills associated with it and the deficits or the strength of each child are different. So having something like Classworks allows the teacher to differentiate and master the content. How does Classworks work in a Google Classroom, and how would it look? Suppose a teacher has 15 students and she broke her class into 3 groups. Group A those 5 students are going to work with the teacher. Group B and C are going to work on Classworks. What they would do would be to minimize the Google Classroom, go log into Classworks, open it up, see what the teacher has assigned for them, work on that. She would say, come back in 10 minutes. When they're done their 10 minutes, Group B comes back, Group A goes, Group C comes back, A and B are working, C is working with her, and it rotates through like mini stations or mini subgroups. At the same time, the teacher has the capacity to look on the window on the side to see who's logged into Classworks and who is not, so she can see, oh, okay, Johnny decided I guess he went to get something to eat because he's not working these 10 minutes. And when he comes back, she can say that too. So it's a way of monitoring, and the kids our kids were used to that because we used that format when they were in school. So when they went home, the only difference was they were seeing their teacher's face in a little block instead of being in the same space with her. Because we use a structure called Daily 5, which has direct introduction to a lesson, direct instruction, practice as a group, and then we break into smaller groups and we move around. So in a 90-minute or 80-minute language block, there's enough time to do this. It was just a shorter amount of time on remote. We started progress monitoring on a smaller scale with certain teachers, and they were our special education teachers throughout the district. And it's the same thing they did as they did when they were there. They seem to be using that very well, much like for our general ed students, we call them their individual learning planning. They're monitoring what's going on. They're going back, reassigning, reteaching, and reusing. We're sort of working on being a paperless district as much as possible, simply because it is much more efficient to be monitored or assessed online because you have the results right away. They're not waiting for the teacher to go home and grade and the next day. You can do it. So that's expanding. Progress monitoring is expanding and using that with our groups as we move forward. And we'll probably rely more on that in the future because it seems like the uncertainty of education and the uncertainty of being in house with your students to do it a different way. You have to use a online or a computerized version. it's amazing because kids use these pieces of equipment or these tools in school. When they got home, their parents were amazed. You could think a 5-year-old could get themselves on and get to their classroom and get themselves into Classworks or their reading program, but they can't because we practice from the beginning of school for the younger ones. So it makes it easier if you take tools with you that you can use and you limit the number of new things that you have to learn. Other tactics that I believe are essential to the success of a remote learning plan are students staying in contact with their teachers, knowing their teachers care about them, knowing that they are concerned, knowing that it is important that they show up and that they give it their 100%. And our teachers did a lot of videotaping and messages and special events just to remind children that they were, because there is a social emotional component to learning in school, and it's very difficult. We try to allow our students to have conversation in a group but still keep everybody protected in a group in a classroom and things of that nature. I just think that it's making sure everybody has what they need. If you didn't have the internet, we went about trying to find you a way to get the internet. If you didn't, if your bandwidth, there were 6 or 7 kids in one house and everybody couldn't be on and be at the same time, teachers made efforts to make sure that they could still contact the child or say, okay, we realize that you can't be signing on the same times as your brothers and sister because of your bandwidth. So you want to come this time, things like that. Being flexible, being understanding, meeting kids' needs. In order to address skill gaps. Before we left in June, we did a Lincoln benchmark, which identified what skills the students had mastered based on the grade level they were in or what they still needed help with. When we return to school in September, the first week of school, everyone will take a mini assessment based on their math and language content. Meaning 20 minutes. Teachers will then begin to make sure that we've identified the correct areas. That we've collected data from the summer work we did, which we call the Bridge program, and then students will go back. And yes, Classworks and our other programs will be used because a good portion of our students have selected remote, even though we will be open. So we will go back with the same premise. You will sign in. If you're home, you're going to sign into your Google Classroom. If you're in school, you're going to be in. You're going to do your work. We will still have the small groups in the movement of the classroom, the structure that we set up last year when everybody was home. We're still going to use a similar structure this year, relying heavily on that small group approach, that differentiated approach, to try to address as many gaps as we possibly can. And again, Classworks we use as an individualized learning plan. It's the skills that child needs. So when they're in that small group for that block of time, they're going to work on what they need. Everybody will be doing something different if necessary. I would advise districts to start with 1, assess where the students need. 2, look at the programs that you have available. 3, individualize. Select programs that are user-friendly, that kids can use from home, that have quality skill, that address skills with quality instruction, and move forward to there. What advice would I give to districts that are just moving into remote instruction to make it successful? 1, assess your students. 2, clearly understand what needs to be taught and what is important. 3, make sure your teachers have the knowledge that they need and the training they need, or give it to them. 4, select programs that can help your teachers and your students be successful. Programs that address skills. Content is one thing, but skills are more important. You need to be able to read, and you need to have mathematical and language skills. If you have those, you can apply them to different content. So use your programs, plan well. It is about planning. Take your lesson, divide it into groups, make sure that every child that's home gets a little bit of an individualized time with this teacher every day. And that would be my advice. What is my favorite thing about Classworks? This is going to sound crazy, but my granddaughter was in kindergarten last year. Now, when she signed on to do Classworks, right? And she signed on, and her older brother's on there, and he's doing this stuff. She sat beside him. He's doing his work, and she's on the computer, and her face lit up when she saw some of the activities that were on there. She wanted to do what he was doing, even though she's in kindergarten, he's in second grade, and they were both happy. They were not stressed out. So I think one of the best things I love about Classwork is the material and the content is presented to students in such a way that they can enjoy their learning. It is not stressful. It is just engaging. I was a high school chemistry teacher. I look at everything one way. But when I was home with my grandkids, and I watched them sign on to their homework things and their programs and everything, and they just enjoyed the activity, and they were doing it, and it wasn't even hers, but she kept getting closer to him to enjoy what he was doing. Can I try? I like this. I can do this. And he was happy and she was happy. And if you've got something and kids don't like it, it's not worth doing. I love your product.